In this video, I'll provide you with common military tactics and basics as well as unfair advantages that the game itself offers, which I apply as a result of my analysis from my most common deaths. Also, we dive into the decision-making process of military forces. What I taught my soldiers will also help your gaming experience. What has timing and not just the typical COD timing to do with it? How can we manipulate it? And why should that be the center of powering your think tank? We'll get into that. Have you ever thought about the actual reason you died in a specific situation? Or were you just frustrated? Which is perfectly fine because then you care, right? Without further ado, let's take our game to another level. There are two different approaches to master another step in the game. First, the first one is not the one that matters the most, but it still does matter a lot. Face uncountable engagements but deaths. Don't care about your death count. This is the only way to get dull in a positive way. To master gunfights without freaking out, you need to get into engagements. This is what every military does, stressing out body and brain so soldiers get dull and stay calm and collected throughout the combat situations. Now look at that gameplay. By looking at it frame by frame, you see how bad my aiming was. The simple reason is I shit my pants. I knew someone was in that building because I heard glass break. I just wasn't expecting them so far upstairs. So they scared me and I overshot. Go get dull by engaging. Jump in games, willingly accepting you're going to die fast and go look for engagements right from the beginning. Resurgence and Plunder both offer good opportunities for that. You will die a lot. I died a lot, I still die a lot, and I will die a lot. And you know what? All big-time gamers died a lot at one point. But the difference is what they learned from it and how they utilized that to their advantage. That being said, I am not a great player by any means. I consider myself average, but I try to find ways to work on it and play around weaknesses so I can provide you the results. It's up to you what of that you want to apply, what you want to change and then apply, or what you want to put aside. Let's straight up dive into the next part. The second one is a recipe of many ingredients that result in avoiding death. Mastering game, map and getting comfortable. Three of the most important things to take with you: timing, timing, timing. Which is simply wrong place, wrong time. Saving time saves lives. Now you might think, what did that dude smoke? But I'll let you know what in detail belongs to timing and how we can bend it to our advantage in a second. For timing in general, you need to look for the following. First of all, dissect your visual to engagement time. So when you see an enemy player, how long does it take till you actually land a shot on them? Everybody has their own personal preference in mouse and controller sensitivity. There's nothing but trial and error until you feel comfortable. Try to watch your engagements back. When you turn on a target and you aim down sight, where did your sight land? And if you had to adjust, where did it land then? If you were beyond your target, your sensitivity is too high. You stopped before it was too low. Make sure to check that. And think about the optic as well. I know the Corio Eagle's Eye 2.5 is the #1 go-to optic, but I personally prefer a colored dot, so I run the KR Mortis Precision 2.5 to stimulate my visual responsiveness a little more. But if you want a clean optic because maybe you die a lot because you didn't see everybody while aiming down sight, then you know what you should work on. Next to work on timing in general is your DMP, the decision-making process. Learn to assess terrain first, then enemy situation, and then your own situation. This needs to become a natural habit. The terrain always leads to your final decision. Whether it's the cover it provides, routes for exiting an area or for engaging the enemy, heights as power positions, bottlenecks, or open field to overwatch. Everything has disadvantages and advantages. But only if you assess the enemies and in that perspective your own situation, your DMP becomes a logical solution. So the questions always are, how is the terrain and what does it provide to the enemy and what does it provide to you? Breaking that down will give you the answer if you should stay and, for example, fortify your position with devices so you can defend, or if you should move and get another position that gives you a better advantage or that takes the advantage from an enemy that is already there or already approaching. I always taught my soldiers to ask themselves one question when they were in a position. Is this the best position they could be in right now? Or is there another position that is even better for their mission's success? And what is the price tag to get there? But don't be afraid, it's not that complicated. Nothing is worse than making no decision at all. Just make one, and if that's not the right one, screw it. Just stick to it. We always said, if you screw up, do it with passion. So don't hesitate. Next to put into conversation is enemy sight. Often I try to win a gunfight where an enemy player already is aiming at me. Try to disengage. Fall back a bit. Get a different angle in a flanking position. And do not try to engage in line of sight again, as the enemy player already has the awareness and kind of expects you there, even if it's several meters beyond the prior position. If you're playing in teams against other teams, then think of them trying to flank you. So what you want to do is flanking their flanking routes by falling back left or right, or pushing in their left or right. So if you move up a bit in their, let's say, left, you'll catch them while they are still rotating. Or if you fall back to the left, their attack runs short and into nothing but you sitting in their flank picking them off. To be fair, this needs a bit of luck and situational awareness and is probably one of the more difficult things to do that comes with experience. And I am not even there too. The point here is, don't be the sitting duck, be on the move. Back, left or right, front, win. Know when to engage. In that gameplay, I already saw the enemy player but decided to close the distance so it's easier to land my shots. Know when and most importantly where to disengage. Here I made the wrong decision. I stayed instead of disengaging to the outside and then played up. Keep in mind that you can play up while sprinting in Warzone. So if your setting is not on automatic sprint, hit the sprint button while you are plating up. Don't be greedy. Here I was only focused on the loot, the enemy player was even visible to me, but thanks to my tunnel vision, my brain lagged out. Here my buddy wanted to revive so badly that he forgot everything else. So again, don't be greedy, not in reviving, not in looting, and not in finishing enemy players off. Now that we learned something in general about timing, have you ever thought about how to use the meta for you personally? I copied uncountable loadouts over the years, but never really thought about my demands. First, think about what type of player you are. What do you struggle with in terms of using guns? Are you controller player or mouse and keyboard player? Now, I as a mouse and keyboard player struggle a lot with horizontal recoil, cause I can't compensate it since it's too RNG for my brain, so I am building my weapons around that. Most meta loadouts are made by controller players, so watch out for that when trying these out, since they do not struggle as much with horizontal recoil as mouse and keyboard players do. So they try to mitigate vertical recoil a lot more. And if you also struggle with vertical recoil, build your gun around that. The key thing I learned from my deaths, the supposedly best loadout won't work out for you if you don't hit your shots. And that also applies to using silencers in order to stay off the minimap. That doesn't help if you are not hitting your shots, so think about using attachments apart from silencers that help your gun mastering. Again, totally personal preference, and I for myself choose to stay off the map. Now let's have a look at the obvious things that can be covered by the right perk choices. I don't want you to just copy and paste the best loadout for Warzone, although they can help you to get inspiration. Keep in mind to assess this for you and your gaming habits. What do you die the most of and then cover it. You can't cover every possible situation, just lower the highest risk. Think about the situations where you died and perks could have helped you out. For example, check out the following scenarios. Enemy players catch you off guard too much because you are still in reloading animation because it takes forever. If that is well known to you, you might want to use sleight of hands, as it helps you out with that, especially if you're using heavier guns like LMGs, but also firearms. Or you'd fought an absolute sweat fight, next enemy is already approaching, but you're still in that plating animation to get all of the 3 plates in. And tempered is the way to go. And by the way, change your setting to insert all plates automatically. This will make a huge difference considering saving time, and you still can cancel the animation if you want. If you cross a lot of open areas or long distances, then think about using double time so you're not being shot because you're just too slow overall. If explosive or tacticals are your worst enemy, then think about battle hardened or EUD. If you are always getting shot from behind or in general from directions where you weren't expecting it, then high alert will be a game changer. A lot more than staying off the minimap with ghost perk in the few situations a UAV is used. Wrong place, wrong time. There are a ton of similar approaches to work on the timing, and there is no must-have. Again, use these examples to think about your biggest threats to your personal gameplay style and be ready to adapt. There is no that is the right loadout. It's up to the individual player. Right now I prefer double time, sleight of hands, cold-blooded and high alert at the moment because that helps me the most in my timing. And now let's cover your routes. There's one thing we've been taught by the wise General Kenobi.
I have the high ground.
high ground is king. So this should always be the first thing that comes in your mind when you look for a position. In real life and in-game, it's harder to aim up. You tend to just look straight. At the same time, you're on a heady, so your enemy has a hard time landing shots. But you, on the flip side, can see their full body. For moving long distances, zip drones are the best choice. Vehicles give you the disadvantage of being seen on the minimap and being heard for longer distances, except with the electric vehicle. So be aware of that when you actually use them. Now I learned one thing regarding zips. I will probably not use them for the last zone when the area gets smaller. It's just too easy to overwatch the zips and notice somebody using it. Also, there isn't a place to disengage to when you get shot mid-air, because the zone is just too small. I think it's crystal clear that cover should be used at all times and even while running distances, crossing open areas and whatnot. But think about how to use cover and how to approach it. The rule of thumb in the military is to run like water flows. When you cross open areas and don't want to be scouted, it will never flow uphill and it runs to the lowest level. This is how you avoid to expose yourself too much. Also run slant routes and not straight at 12 o'clock. Eliminate threats by eliminating dimensions. For example, use open doors for left-right check as they will provide cover to one side. Move to outer areas with low-story buildings. Use the gas as your backup, but be aware that you can be holed a lot easier. So move from the outer to the inner circle as threats are not surrounding you then. For landing spots, we are once again driven by content out there. Avoid town areas to avoid even more turmoil of war. No military force on Earth really wants to fight in urban scenarios. The nature of urban combat is it leads to just a lot more casualties. Slow approaches because of so much ground that has to be covered vertically and so many directions you can get shot from. So if it has no tactical or strategical value, then avoid it. Last but not least, try to relax after you died and watch your adversaries, especially playing the endgame, as it teaches you a lot of things, how other players behave. How the last zone plays out normally. Like here, you see that guy barely moving, which is good cause it's harder to notice them. They killed somebody, but then when their position got unveiled, they stay instead of disengage and engage again. Also, you can learn that the last 3 players or teams are often scattered in a triangle. So knowing your own position, draw a triangle to know with a high chance where the other players are. Alright then, I know sometimes you just don't want to think. I do the same over and over. Just relax and dive into a game to get entertained. Run into a building full of enemy players already facing me, cause I just felt I could own him. Then die in first contact. You do you. Whatever makes you happy is fine. And if you want to improve but don't know where to start, then this should give you some incentives. Will this lead to high kill gameplays? Probably not, by how the game plays out for the most part nowadays. And that wraps it up. Keep enjoying gaming, like and subscribe if you learned something, and I'll catch you in the next video.